Alright guys, welcome back to your boy Motoman Dan. Today we're going to be talking about the Flamethrower, long-range, fast-firing fire attack with secondary breath weapon that does more damage the longer it's on. Now I gotta say that this is probably the coolest weapon. It has a lot going on that is really unique, and I think they did a really good job with the design of this weapon, for sure. We have our level upgrades, which is reduced mana cost. We have our unique upgrades, which is increased burn duration or reduced secondary ramp up time. I typically run the first one, but you could argue either, really. I mean, you're probably fine with either of them, but I'd rather do an increased burn duration so that way they are on fire for a little bit longer. Let's jump into the game files. The first thing that we have to talk about is the Flamethrower attributes. Now, the projectile lifetime is 2 seconds. Not very long, but it's there. Secondary minimum damage per second is 30. Maximum damage per second is 60. So as you're holding the right mouse button, it does less to more, up to 60 damage per second. The ramp up time is 5 seconds, so it takes 5 seconds to get there to the maximum. Secondary drain per second is 20 for mana. The flame radius is 7, not squares, but 7 something, who knows. And the secondary flame length is 900, which is 6 grid squares, I believe. So maybe 6 by 7. No, it seems really large. That could be, maybe that could just be the animation and not the actual effect. So the effect could be smaller than the animation. Not sure. All right, and then we have the primary damage of 12. So it's a left mouse button. Primary damage. All right, let's look at the weapon protos. Here we have 0.275 attacks per second, which is, or not per second. But that's, yeah. It's 3.63 attacks per second. Sorry, that's the rate of attack here. Or the cooldown of the primary attack. It doesn't cost anything. Once you get the Cold Size DLC, you unlock the weapon. Let's look at the stats effect proto. So we have the Flamethrower primary, 7 damage a second, with a 20% slow for 4 seconds, as is typical of fire. And then the secondary, again, 7 damage a second, 20% slow, 4 seconds. Okay. Then we have the upgrade protos. We have the level upgrades. Secondary mana drain per second is reduced, so it takes it down to 18. Then again by 2 down to 16. Then again by 2 down to 14. So it takes down to 14 mana per second to do that. The increased burn duration moves it to 6, so it's an additional 2 seconds for the burn for both the primary and for the secondary. So it's an extra 14 damage per second, which is, or an extra 14 damage, I should say, for both either the primary or the secondary. Burn itself doesn't stack, but you can burn with either primary or secondary. It's either that or you get the secondary damage ramp up time by -2 seconds, taking it to 3 seconds instead of 5. So really, like I said, you can really run either of them, but I typically like to add more damage in an area. So I typically run the increased burn duration, but you know, you can use either one that you want. All right, let's go ahead and jump into a game and take a look at why this is probably the best weapon they've made, and why the Cold Size DLC really kind of deserves a lot of credit, I think. And this weapon just kind of helps showcase that with the way it looks and acts and just how cool it is. All right, let's jump into a game. All right, so the first thing you're going to see is you get this fuel tank on your back. You switch to another weapon, you remove it. If you have this, you do have it. The head of this thing, it's actually supposed to be like a living dragon. There was some concept art about it before. But essentially, the dragon itself, the weapon moves because it's a sort of living-ish. But it does move around. And then as you attack, you shoot out flame balls of fire. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, if I do this and I switch back over, look at my tank. That tank is actually your mana. So if I do this and I'm holding the right mouse button, my mana isn't going down because I have the mana rage trinket on. And you can see the flame gets more and more powerful and it gets louder as it's doing its thing as well. But now you can see my mana start to deplete. And look at the tank. The tank is depleting when my mana depletes. Like, if that's not the coolest thing ever, I don't know what is. Like, they spent a lot of time to make this really cool, I'm sure. And they did not disappoint. So anyways, it's just such a cool concept. And it's a really good weapon as well. It does good damage, really good for burn. Definitely use it if you're going fire. It's way better than the Flame Bracer, for sure. When you have to compare the two, because you're going to use them probably the same areas, right? When there's not a lot of fire enemies, you know, that are immune, or if you want to, you know, increase combo or whatever, it's good. I mean, you could just run there, do this, and then boom. And then run down and do a little bit of burn, and boom. And it has such a good, you know, range of stuff that it affects. And it'll pierce through everything. That it's just better than the Flame Bracer for pretty much any purpose you use Flame Bracer for, other than just its raw output damage. However, I did forget to mention in the game files, this thing can headshot. So depending on the enemy's headshot damage multiplier, it can do some serious damage, because it's also fire damage. So trolls, watch out. All right, guys, that'll be it for the Flame Bracer. So let me know in the comments if you like it, if you don't like it, if you use it, if you don't use it, how come and why. If you have any tips or tricks or cool things that you know about it, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you're looking for those sorts of things, check the comments. And as always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow. I stream on Twitch and going to be uploading to YouTube as of right now. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Deuces.